does Hashem actually care that we should do the mitzvot and do all this in order to get close to him, which is what teshuvah really means? Or is it all just about us? This question is actually quite hot at the moment, because in the yeshivas and in the explicit, more revealed sources, the standard sources, you will find very explicit statements that no, fundamentally, in his very essence and being, Hashem does not care. He's too great for that. He is ein od milvado. There is nothing outside of himself. Even once the creation happened, it still is nothing compared to him. So how can it make any difference to him? And how can petty physical actions by finite, tiny human beings make any difference to him? Of course not, they say. The mitzvot are just there for us. Getting close to him is for our benefit, not his. However, as we know, right now, there seems to be a big pushback against that, and it's coming from the Kabbalistic esoteric sources, as well as the Hasidic sources, which came later and took the idea even further to the point where we can say, not only does Hashem care, he needs us, and he needs us to do the mitzvot. This idea is being peddled by Rabbi Manis Friedman Shlita, and has caused a great controversy online. So in this video, I'm going to be dealing and addressing with that question and trying to back it up from the sources to those who have heard of the idea and have never seen any justification for it. It is fully justified in our sources. It is very, very true, and the depth and beauty of the idea is something that I feel everybody should find out about. So this video is aimed at from people. It's going to get a bit philosophical, so people who like to get philosophical and like to get advanced in their thinking. And it's for people that have already heard of the idea, because I'm not going to go through the idea from the beginning in the correct order. I am going to make more videos for that. So if you've not heard of the idea, I do not recommend watching this video. You're going to get the whole thing backwards, and it's better to hear it properly, especially if you're already willing to accept it and like the idea. If you don't like it, then maybe you should stick to this video, but I'm going to make another video also for that as well. Now, the first thing I want to get out of the way is that a lot of people who are who went to the yeshivas, when they do hear the idea, they don't like it. Firstly, they don't like it because it sounds heretical, stupid, and blasphemous to them, especially in light of statements they've heard from the philosophers, the Baalei Chakira. And they are very much convinced that the reason why Hashem made the world is to do good to us, based on the arguments I gave before. They've seen sources that say that, and they've seen sources that say that Hashem needs us is heretical. The Ramban himself says that. Well, he doesn't say exactly that, and that's kind of what I'm going to get to in a minute. But he does say that to say that Hashem needs anything outside of himself is heretical, and I'm not going to contradict that in this video, of course, and the Kabbalistic sources do not contradict that either. It's a very subtle idea, it's a philosophical idea, and we need to get into it properly. So the very first thing that should be blowing people's minds right about now is that there are sources that say Hashem needs us. In fact, it goes back to the Gemara, which means it goes back to Moshe. It's discussed by the Rishonim, and the early Rishonim describe it as a great secret. And even the Kabbalists will call it a secret. But as you get furthermore to the present date in the sources, the more contemporary ones will describe it more explicitly, more openly, and will discuss it on higher levels. So even though you may find this idea uncomfortable, maybe it makes Hashem sound needy, maybe it makes it sound like Hashem needs us, and that's kind of like a way of using us. It makes him sound not as strong and infinite as you hoped he was, and it makes him sound finite and limited. Chas v'shalom. Don't worry, we are going to deal with all that, and it's not like that at all. However, even if you don't want to change your mind on this, and nobody's forcing you, I would at least like you to change your minds on one thing. Stop pushing back against this idea, because this idea does exist in the sources, and those sources are very high caliber sources. And there are people that need to hear this idea. In fact, it's the only way they can connect to Hashem. They would say that saying Hashem does not need us or does not care about us doing Torah mitzvot is heretical. I'm in that camp. However, I would never call anybody a heretic for saying that, because I know where they're coming from. I went to yeshiva too. But there are especially secular people, and this is why Rabbi Manis Friedman is so popular among the secular people, really do like the idea. The idea that Hashem created the whole world, put us here with all this suffering, gave us these great challenges, and told us to deny our natures and to deny our pleasures for him, sacrifice, give our life up for him, and he doesn't really care, he doesn't really need it. to them, it sounds like Hashem is a bit of a monster, chas v'shalom. So when these people do find out the truth from people like Rabbi Manis Friedman, who are revealing the great secret, that Hashem does really need us in his very essence, they're greatly relieved. And in fact, they usually become frum after hearing this idea. Other people who are already frum, but very demotivated and just running on a Bediyevid mode, when they find out that Hashem needs them, and that when they find out that what they learn in yeshiva is a simplistic version of theology and there's more to it than that, and it turns out Hashem actually does need us in care, and it's for him as well as for us, they get turned on completely and they become super frum, if you know what I mean. And it's a type of inspiration that lasts forever. It's not a very quick fix inspiration that a lot of fiery Balei Teshuvah experience, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to try and get through this idea in this video. It's going to be a long video, but we're gonna nail it down for people who think that there are no sources, there's no justification. So let's start at the beginning. Why did Hashem create the world? So the philosophers arrived at this conclusion that Hashem doesn't need anything. He's complete and perfect. There's nothing he can gain. So the only possible logical reason that Hashem could create the world is in order to do good for us, because he's kind, or something like that. And that's part of his perfection. So that's not really a contradiction. And this idea is not originally from Jewish sources. This idea comes, believe it or not, from Aristotle. In the times of the Gemara, Greek philosophy was very hot. And we have examples of Tanyam who were learning Greek philosophy and they became heretics. Fast forward 1,000 years, and we've got the times of the Ramban. There was a rational enlightenment in the Arab world, and Aristotle became hotly popular. And a lot of people were starting to become a bit embarrassed by the Torah, because the way Aristotle describes God as being the perfect, immovable rock, infinite, beyond, untouchable, unreachable, the unmoved mover, and all that, he's got a philosophy of God's oneness that means that he cannot be composed of any parts, and he's perfect. Therefore, to say that Hashem has an emotion, for example, is obviously not true, and it's dumb. And a lot of people were getting a bit embarrassed by the Torah for saying so. So the Rambam came along, girded his loins, and wrote the Moreh Nevuchim, and gave us this philosophy that basically agrees with Aristotle. And this was accepted and taken to the yeshivas ever since. That Hashem only created the world to do good, and that he doesn't need anything and it's not for him at all. And to say so is stupid, as well as heretical. However, there is another tradition which can be found in the Gemara, which is that God needs our service. It's called Tzorech Gvua. The avoda of the Beit HaMikdash, as is described in about 5 different Gemaras, is Tzorech Gvua, which means the needs of above. The Ramban brings that in his commentary on the pasuk V'shechanti betochem, and he says, this is a great secret. We think that prayer, which is avoda, is for us, but the truth is, it's not. It's for him. But it's a great secret. Don't tell anybody. So then we have the Avodat HaKodesh, which is a very Kabbalistic work that really, really rails against the philosophical arguments and constantly criticizes them and constantly says, no, Hashem didn't create the world for us, he created the world for him, and to say otherwise is blasphemous. And by the way, if you learn the Moreh Nevuchim, say for example, part 3, chapter 13, the Rambam explores the idea that the world is not for us, it's for him. In fact, it seems to be that that's the way he holds. So the Moreh Nevuchim has got more to it than that, let's say. In fact, I'm going to prove what it means that Hashem needs us a bit later on, and I'm going to use many of the philosophies in the Moreh Nevuchim to back that up. And I'm going to make the claim that the Moreh Nevuchim is a bit misunderstood by some people. And I'm allowed to say that because I'm not the only one saying it. There's great Rabbanim that say that. For example, the third Ishbitz Rebbe in the introduction to the Beis Yaakov. But whatever, don't want to get into that right now. So let's now ask the question again from the point of view of the Kabbalah, the mystical tradition of the Torah, which is Rabbi Akiva's Torah, which is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's Torah, which goes all the way back to Adam and Sefer Raziel. And there's so much more to it than that. So this is an ancient tradition of theology, mysticism, and spiritual science. It's a science as well. And this is given to us by Hashem. So we don't need any Greek philosophies to understand it, although the language of the Greeks and the arguments of the Greeks has been used to help explain it, because it's very hard to explain, as you can imagine. It's an esoteric subject that goes way beyond the rational. It doesn't go irrational, it goes beyond rational. And that is why the esoteric tradition says, no, Hashem did not create us for kindness. Or rather, he did. But that's not logical. It's not a logical thing. Let's go back. Why did Hashem create the world? So, remember, before the creation of the world, the way Hashem was in his very essence and being was very indescribable. There's nothing we can really say about it. We've got no way to reach that or touch that. However, we do know that the Torah describes him as Ein Od Milvado. There was nothing but him. That he was alone. And also, the world was nothing at that point. What does nothing mean? Nothing doesn't mean that there could have been a world, but there just wasn't. Nothing means there was not even the potential for a world. There was not even a logical argument to explain that there could be a world, or that there might be a world, or there is a world that is possible. Nothing, absolutely nothing. There was just Hashem. Just Hashem. So why did he create the world? Well, the Midrash says, Nitzavat HaKadosh Baruch Hu liot dira betachtonim. Hashem had a desire, that's how we're going to translate nitzava for now, to have a dwelling place among the lowest beings. Wait. Hashem wanted? I thought Hashem created the world out of kindness. Okay. It must be that before you can be kind, you have to want to be kind. So maybe want is the very first thing. And it must be that want preceded everything, absolutely everything. But what is it that Hashem wanted? He wanted a dwelling place in the lowest worlds. Remember, Hashem was perfect. He was complete. Everything was great. we don't know what it was like in that existence, but we know that it was very, very good and perfect and absolutely in need of nothing. Why ruin it? We will come back to that. Let's continue with everything we know from that point on. We know that Hashem wanted a dira betachtonim. That's why he created the world. That is given in the Kabbalistic sources and the Hasidic sources as the highest, most essential reason for creating. It precedes the desire to do kindness. It precedes the desire to be known. It precedes the desire for a king to have a people. It precedes the desire to be complete in action as well as potential. It's the source of all of those things. Like, why did he want those? Because he wanted a dira betachtonim. But it's the highest of the reasons. Why did he want a dira betachtonim? Because he wanted a dira betachtonim. Because a dira betachtonim is what he wants. He doesn't want it for something else. That is what he wants. That's called a chayfetz. It's called, or a taiva. The reason, by the way, Chazal used the word taiva is because the word taiva means an irrational or beyond reason desire. And that has to be because he wanted that before he even created reason, right? That's logical. That is how it's explained in the sources. So, now he got a plan. We've got a plan. We've got a plan called Dira B'Tachtonim. Hashem wants a Beit HaMikdash. He wants a Mishkan. Whatever it is, right? We're going to get to that in a minute. Now, he creates a world where the Dira B'Tachtonim can be in. And therefore, the way to get the Dira B'Tachtonim is fixed. He's never going to change the world. He made a promise to never change the world, the way the world works. It's going to exist like this forever. So therefore, now that he's got a set of rules, and he's got a plan for those rules, a goal, and he wants us to partner with him in that plan. Therefore, in order for the plan to be fulfilled, we need to do the mitzvot. Very, very simple. Not really controversial. In fact, I doubt the Balei Chakira, the philosophers, would really have a problem with that. Rabbi David Gottlieb gave a video explaining that, once you're playing chess, you need to checkmate the king to win. If you don't checkmate the king, you don't win. But God, he made chess and he made the rules and he could change them, so therefore really doesn't... Okay, we're going to go a bit further than that, by the way, but for now, that is the way it's explained and people are comfortable with that. And for now, you can really stop this video if you want and say, okay, Hashem needs me, he needs my mitzvot, and I don't need to be calling anybody a heretic anymore. But let's go a bit further, because we do know that Rabbi Friedman says Hashem needs us ba'atzmus, right? So what does that mean? How are we going to get this need to go all the way back to even before the want, to him himself, before creation, for all time, Ein od milvado? Well, as I said, as you get more contemporary, the sources take this need up further and further and further and further. And the way need is explained changes as you get higher and higher, as you can imagine. So right now we're talking about a very, very base level of need. There's a plan. This is how you achieve the plan. I need you to do this, this, and this in order for the plan to happen. Are we going to do it? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, Hashem needs us to do the mitzvot because of the plan. So firstly, let's just ask a quick question. Does Hashem need the plan to be fulfilled? Because if he does, then that is already higher than the game. At least one level. And yes, the sources say that no, Hashem did not make a frivolous plan. It's not meaningless to him. Hashem is not like that. Hashem doesn't have a Yetzer Hara. He's not frivolous. He is Emet. That's his seal. That's his shield. Truth. So of course, the plan is vital to him. It's essential to him. It's an expression of himself. It comes from him from before the creation. Okay? So, yes, the plan is necessary. The plan itself is necessary. And that is what, in Hebrew, we would use the word atzmi. It's essential to him. Before, we were using the Hebrew word sarich, which is more like a need, and it can imply a lack. Like the plan is not fulfilled yet, so there is a lack. But of course, when we come to atzmus, there's no lack. When we're talking about Hashem himself, there is no lack. And to say so is stupid and is heretical. So we're not going to use the word sarich by atzmus, but we are going to still translate it as need in English, because English is not as sophisticated a language as Hebrew is. I've already said that there are two words for need already in Hebrew. One is sarich and one is atzmi. One is sometimes translated as essential, but that also means needed, necessary. Okay? Now, what does it mean to have a dira betachtonim, a dwelling place in the lowest worlds? This is clarified in the sources as meaning Hashem wanted to get married. A dira means a home. And tachtonim does not mean the lowest world, it means with the lowest beings. He wants to, so to speak, marry us. And that is his plan, and it is not frivolous. You can find this in many sources, and of course all the sources are on the screen, as you've noticed, and they're all in the description. Go and look there. Hashem wants to get married to Yisrael, and that is essential to him. This is described as a taiva. Nit ava HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem had a taiva. Can we translate taiva as need? Of course we can. We do that all the time in English. We do. When I say, I need to cuddle my son because he's so cute and I love him, we're using the word need. Do we really mean need? Will I die? Will I be incomplete if I don't cuddle him? No, of course not. I was complete before I had my children. I was complete before I had my wife, who I need. I say it. Well, we find that hard to say, but we do mean it. I need you is perhaps the most romantic statement you can possibly make, and it's so difficult to make, and that proves how romantic it is. It touches right at the very core of our being. In fact, it touches our essence, because we have an essence too. Now, this is what I need to explain. Now we need to get into the topic of essence. Okay? This is where I'm going to bring back the Moreh Nevuchim, because the Moreh Nevuchim, what he's really doing, if you read between the lines, although it's also very explicit on most pages, especially in part 1, is that there is a difference between essence and expression. Okay? Atzmut and Gilui. Essence is a philosophical concept which basically means, and this is quite philosophical, by the way, so really try and think about this and learn more. Okay? Don't just stop here. Most people will not get this the first time they hear it. It might take many years. Okay? Even very smart people. Essence is the thing in and of itself, as it is in itself, without any relationship to anything else. Expression is how it relates to others. Okay? Now, the Rambam is making a very clear point in Moreh Nevuchim that essence is always one. It's always simple. It's always unreachable, untouchable, and undescribable. Especially when you're talking about the essence of a someone. We're talking, obviously, things, physical created things, can have an essence. But that essence is created and it's composite and, but someone's, people, we have an essence. We have a me. Me, I. When we say that, we're talking about our very self, right? Our essence. That is indescribable. The only thing we can possibly say to describe it is me. What does that mean? No idea. Well, you certainly have no idea. I might have an idea because I am me. But I'd say, I can't analyze my me with my brain. I don't know where this me is that exists. The philosophers, they love talking about the mind and the self and all that. And there's a lot of philosophy behind it. But I'm not even going to get into that. The esoteric truth of the self is so lofty that we just have no way of relating to it. But we do know one thing. I am not my body, okay? My body is something that I own. If I own it forever, I might confuse it with myself. But ultimately, it's not me, it's mine. That's a different word. What is mine is not me. What about my intellect and my emotions? Well, they are often described as the atzmus of a human being. But I just said it. It's my intellect. It's my emotions. So it's still not the real me. Can you imagine? Having a different intellect, somebody else's brain, like, switching a button in your brain and making it more intellectual, increasing your IQ? Does that mean you're not you anymore? Of course not. You're still you. Okay? So, what is me? Is it my soul? Well, my soul is my intellect and my emotions, according to some sources. So, also I just said my soul. Could I imagine that Hashem could have fashioned me a different soul? It's a bit harder. So long as I want the same things, I'm still the same. So the sources say that the essence of the soul, because the essences can have essences, atzmus can have its own atzmus. Essence of the soul is ratzon, which is makif. It's bigger than the soul. So in theory, yes. As long as what I want stays the same, my soul can change and I'm still me. But what about if I change what I want? Am I still me? Can imagine that too. So what is me? What is me? Don't know. All I know is that me is indescribable, ineffable. There's no words for it. Any description is inaccurate because you could just change that description if you want. Give me a different soul. It's simple. I am just me. I'm not somebody else. I'm not multiple. I can't be split into two. I can't give you a piece of me and still be me. We got all these philosophical points, right, about essence. So really what we're talking about now, to put it into everyday language, is that there is a difference between a someone and a something. Okay? And 99% of your interaction with me is going to be with the things about me. You're going to be listening to my words. You're going to be looking at my appearance. You're going to be hearing my thoughts and analyzing my ideas. You're going to be whatever it is. These are all things about me. But to really relate to me, myself, that is a hard problem. And that is what the Rambam is basically saying in the Moreh Nevuchim, that Hashem is essence. Anything you want to say beyond that about him, it's going to be the things about him, okay? And that, trying to take those as serious and relate to those rather than actually relating to him himself is a blasphemous thing to do. Just like it is in a relationship. That's why Rabbi Manis Friedman always brings up the idea of marriage. He will say, don't marry somebody for the things about them. If you do, you're cheating on them. You're marrying the things, you're not marrying them. Even if it's very lofty things like their personality and their love and their soul. All of those things are things about the person. It's not the person themselves. What is the person themselves? I don't know. But I do know. Because I have one of those. And she has one of those. And I want her. I want her. I don't want anything about her independently. Although I happen to do want them now that I want her. And that is okay. That's not idolatry. That's not blasphemy. Okay? So the Lubavitch Rebbe tells us in two Maimarim, and if you look, it's all over the place, that this need, this Tzorech Gvua, this need for our service, is truly a need for us. Right? This is what it means when we say, does Hashem really care if you shech from the front of the neck or the back of the neck? Does he need the light of the menorah? The truth is, it's not the things about you that Hashem needs. He needs you. Happens to be that the way he gets you is by doing the mitzvot. Because the mitzvot are nogea ba'atzmus. They are essential to him. Rabbi Friedman gives an example of a mother who always asks her son to bring her tea. And he does it diligently for 50 years. And then one day he finds out she hates tea, she never drinks it. As soon as he leaves the room, she pours it out. And then she says, oh, but I just wanted you to do something for me so you could get close to me. But Rabbi Friedman points out rightly that this son is not any closer to her at all. You only obey blindly people you can't get close to, like a king or a headmaster. But if the mother did like the tea, then the son's getting closer, because the tea is important to her. And that is what it means, that the mitzvot are nogea ba'atzmus. There's many, many sources that say that the mitzvot are the limbs of Hashem. The way we think in every day. Just like I don't see my hand as separate from me, it is me, so too the mitzvot are not separate from Hashem. They are him. Okay? So, but it's not a mashal. The truth is that the mitzvot are all essential to Hashem. They all are what he genuinely likes, and the averot are what he genuinely dislikes, fundamentally in his essence, and that is revealed in Chassidus. So now that we've got all that, let's put it together. The Rebbe says that what Hashem needs is us, and that is nogea ba'atzmus. It goes all the way to the top. He doesn't just want to get married, he wants to get married to you. You. And it's real. It's about you. It's not about the things about you. He needs you. Ba'atzmus. And as I said, in Hebrew, we've got a lot of different words for that. And the Rebbe doesn't take the word tzarich and put it next to atzmus on a piece of paper. He never would. But it doesn't mean that we wouldn't say need in English, because English is not as sophisticated. So in Hebrew, we've got the word taiva, like I already said, means need. We've also got a stronger word, I'd say, which is teshukah. Teshukah is the craving that a husband has for his wife, or a wife has for her husband. This kind of craving, we would, in English, not call it a craving, we'd call it a need. I need you. I need you. And, like we said before, when it comes to atzmus itself, everything's beyond description. There are no descriptions. Words are so inapplicable. Not because atzmus is devoid of substance, of content, of it's a nothing, but because the words are not enough. We're climbing up a ladder here, and then we're going into the black hole, right? The black hole of essence. We're crossing the event horizon where no longer words appear, but the route that we took to get there was a true route, and we went higher than we can comprehend with our brains. That's what we're saying. And our brains use words. Okay? So there is no word to say what it means to need us ba'atzmus. It's just a mashal. But it is a mashal. This is a very, very common theme throughout all of Kabbalah. It goes all the way back to the earliest sources. That when the Ramban says, for example, that everything is a mashal, what it means is we're the mashal. There is a true concept of a kiss. There is a true, infinite, beyond our comprehension concept of love. Of even a hand, eyes. It's all there. Hashem has all of those things. Bad language. If you're following along, you'll understand what I mean when I say that. I don't have to qualify it. But the truth of Hashem's being is the reality of our existence. We are just the mashal of him. We are many, 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 many levels of mashal down. But as we learn in Maimar V'Yadata, nothing is lost in the process of turning the truth into the mashal. The mashal contains the whole truth. It just looks different because it's a mashal. But if you know how to understand the mashal, you are learning truth about Hashem. And very early sources like Chovot, Halevavot, and certainly the Pardes Rimonim, Derech Mitzvotecha, the Tanya, describe how the way Hashem has an essence but he also expresses himself to the creation, which is what the Ramban is very happy to explain in the Moreh Nevuchim, of course. Hashem's actions do not contradict his oneness, that's his expressions, is also the same for us. Like I said before, we have an essence and we have an expression. And everything that is described about Hashem's essence in the Moreh, in the Torah, everything also applies to our own essence. Lahavdil, I will say lahavdil, because there are still differences. And this video is not going to go into those differences, but I do want to point out that our essence and his essence, very, very different in many ways, but also very, very much the same in many, many ways. That's really what it means that we're created in his image. We are able to relate to him, ba'atzmus, and he needs us there. And that is the right word. He needs you just as essentially as you can imagine. More essentially than you can imagine. You think you need your wife? You think you need your kids? You think you need your children to be good? You think you need your wife to treat you correctly? You think all these things are just a mashal. It's, for him, it's infinite. It's eternal. It's beyond infinite. Okay? So, the Rebbe does describe in another Maimah that even the taiva for the Derech Betachtonim is not the real want, like I said before. That is the first want. Hashem wanted, like I said before. But what came before the want? Because we know that want itself is a creation. What came before the want is us. There are many, many sources, and he says it explicitly, that we are relevant to Hashem, but to Hashem, who is the one who wants. Right? Before he wanted. You could say, in temporal language, that Hashem never wanted to get married until he met us. Now, how romantic is that? And how much does that imply that he cares? It means that he cares more than desire itself. We are his ultimate pleasure. So now it's time to summarize and apply everything we learned back to the topic at hand. What is Atzmus? We have defined it as, very simply, the self, me. Atzmus is the me before there is any expression. Expression is things like love, things like even need. We have a soul that Hashem gave us, and through that soul, we express ourselves. We can imagine that we could have a different soul. Hashem could have created more powerful souls. We could have expressed ourselves in ways that we can't even imagine, because that's what an Atzmus does. It expresses itself. It can act. It can connect through expression. It's the same with Hashem as it is with us, lahavdil. He also has an Atzmus, and he existed without any form of expression long before any creation. This is Hashem himself. Himself. He doesn't need to express because he's God. We, on the other hand, it seems, were created, but we were created like him in the sense that we have a self, something that is even higher than our soul, something that is very much defined in the same way. It's simple. I'm simple in my very self. I'm not limited. I'm not composite in my very self. I can't be shared or revealed. However, the way that an Atzmus, a self, can connect to another self is through expression. And Hashem created all these modes of expression in this existence through which we should all connect to each other, including connecting to him. The way that works is through emotions, through thought, through action, speech, and deed. Okay? This is not a contradiction. This is what Atzmus does. This is what myself does. It expresses itself. I express myself to you. For example, I may love you. I may hate you. That's chesed and that's gvura. Is that the real me? No, except to the fact that if I'm really loving you and I truly love you and it's authentic, it means that who's doing the loving? Me. And it's authentic, meaning it's coming from, you could say, coming from my essence. It is not essence itself, but my essence is what is doing the loving. It's myself who loves. There can also be an inauthentic love that's not coming from myself. It's coming from my Yetzer Hara. Or perhaps it's coming from a scheme or a trick or a manipulation, a lie. Perhaps it's just context-based. Maybe I'm acting. Maybe it's limited, it's finite, whatever it is. It's not real love. So that's a whole topic we can explore. But let's get this straight. Let's really seal the deal. There is no difference between us and Hashem in this regard, lahavdil. His essence is what is loving us. He created the Sfirot, or he emanated them, whatever you want to say. Like, for example, in Derech Mitzvotecha Haamanat Elokut, chapters 4 to 8, he describes at great length, very crystal clearly, that Hashem created the Sfirot. The Sfirot is where love begins, where emotions and expressions begin, even for Hashem. However, they do not act on their own, chas v'shalom. They are not producing love or manufacturing love. The way the love is transmitted is from Him. He is loving through love. He is wise through wisdom. He is desirous through desire, keter. So therefore, the question really is Hashem's love for us authentic or not? Does He really care, or is it an inauthentic caring? That's basically what this whole debate is about. And a lot of people, unfortunately, have come to the conclusion, based on the philosophies and whatnot, that because they've misunderstood Atzmos, they see it as some kind of level where nothing could possibly apply. And therefore, if Hashem is loving us, it's not authentic. That is not true at all. What we mean by Hashem is loving us, which means He Himself is doing the loving. The loving is not manufactured. It's not pretend. It's not inauthentic on any level. Same with us. When I love you, the love is not me, but I'm doing the loving. So therefore, if you're into love, and I've got a lot of love, you might be attracted to me. Or whoever, let's not make this about me actually. But your wife, if your wife is very good at loving, maybe you married her because of love. That would be a form of cheating. Rabbi Manis Friedman puts this all the time. If you are into her, then it's her love that you want. Because you want her, and the way you can have her is through love. That's one way. The way you can connect to her is through love. But it's not the love that you're interested in, it's the connection. The connection to herself, her essence. And it's the same thing with Hashem, lahavdil. A mashal that's given by Rabbi Friedman is actually a good one. It's about children. If I wanted love from my children, and my children don't love me, maybe I can go to my nephews and nieces, or even my neighbour's kids. They'll love me and I'll be fine. But we know that's not true. That's not true at all. It's not love that I need. It's my children's love, because I need my children. There we go. I just said the word need. Now let's apply this to the topic. So where does need fit in to this world of expression? Well, you have to know that the world of expression has a hierarchy. At the very bottom is behavior, which is powered by emotion, which is powered by intellect, which is powered by desire. And within desire, the sources reveal are things like taiva and teshukah. So it's right at the very top of expression. What is need? Well, need is the closest you can really get to your essential self. Your essential self has to have some way of connecting to your expression. And the way it connects is really through what we would call need. Yourself needs to be itself. You need to be you. That's the one thing that your essence is limited by. If you want to say that it's unlimited, it's true. It can express itself in any way. However, one thing you can definitely say about it is it needs to be itself. Especially with regards to Hashem, He has to be. Therefore, when we say that Hashem needs you, what we mean is that it's essential to Him. Essence, essential. Do you get it? He is expressing Himself in order to have you. Otherwise, He would just have you. He doesn't need to express Himself for that. So that means that the in order to have you bit is essential. It's true, it's authentic, it's all the way at the top. So when we say that Hashem needs us, we're not talking about lack. We're not talking about imperfection. We're not talking about diminishing Hashem. On the contrary, we're glorifying Him. We are revealing His perfection. His perfection is that in his very self, He doesn't want to be alone. or it's not good to be alone. Isn't that the teaching? In us, it's a creation, but in him, that's his perfection. To say, I am perfect, I don't need you for anything, I can look after myself, I am already as big as can be, as infinite as can be, as great as can be, as old as can be, as powerful as can be. You can't contribute to that at all, and there's nothing you can do for me to help me in any way. However, it's not enough to just be me. I need this perfection to be shared with you, because I'm romantic and I'm humble. That's what Hashem is effectively telling us in the whole Torah, on every page. Once you get it, once you get past the whole controversial side of these things and just understand that it's a very simple, understandable relationship that we have with him, as infinite as he is and as incomprehensible as his love and his expressions are, all these statements, they apply there, and we're not detracting from them, like we said. Once you really get this, then you have every reason to love Hashem, every reason to serve him lishma. So this Elul, let's do so. Let's do teshuvah for him. Let's improve our relationships. Let's try to relate to our loved ones, to their essence, to they themselves. Even if we think that we love them for some things about them, let's realize that unless we love them, that's not good enough. Let's try to really truly connect to our people. This is what Rabbi Friedman describes as intimacy. It means essence to essence. I love you. I want you. I need you. And now I've run out of words. Me and you. That's all I can say. Ani vahu. So, this intimacy, devekut in Hebrew, or maybe yichud, achdut, whatever you want to call it, is very romantic. Self to self. Essence to essence. The Ramchal promises us that Olam Haba is going to be an eternal existence with Hashem's holy community in an eternal state of intimacy with him. Ben Miriam, let's achieve that as soon as we can. The secret's out of the bag. We have all the tools we need. We just have to understand it and appreciate it, let it penetrate our mind and our heart so that we can truly love Hashem, truly understand that he loves us and cares about us, and it is authentic and it is necessary to him. We are necessary to him. He needs us and he's going to get us, and it's great. So we're the final generation. We're the ones that can do it. Maybe this is why. Let's see. Everybody, thank you for listening. It's been my great pleasure to teach this topic and ask questions, and we'll see you in the next video.